Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I want to talk about the fact is that the first trailer, I guess it's more of a teaser really, for the next Avengers movie, Avengers 4, just dropped today. And if you haven't seen it already, I'll include a link to it in the description down below. But basically just gonna be me sharing some thoughts I had about it. For one, I thought it was kind of pretty nice how they did it, because I saw the trailer pop, I was like, it just says Avengers, but the thumbnail for it, I was like, that seems like some Avengers 4 stuff, and then I clicked on it, and it's like, it is. It was like a little way to tease the title of it being Endgame, which is like, obviously a perfect name. Well, one of many things I'm initially thinking. It's like, obviously it seems like we're doing a bit of a time skip, because for one, there's the little zinger at the end with the whole Ant-Man situation. I kind of wasn't sure if we were actually going to see that in a trailer, but I mean, I guess it makes perfect sense. But he also said like, oh yeah, the whole thing in Civil War we met a couple years ago. I'm like, because obviously like my mindset, I've talked about this before, where it's like, oh yeah, like I still don't know like the time frame of all of the MCU, just because everything doesn't take place in the order that you think it does, just because everything's kind of all over the place in certain regards. So, but it's been a couple years, and so it kind of feels like everyone that survived the snap amongst our heroes has kind of been living in this world for at least a good bit of time. So I'm kind of like, okay, that's interesting, because it never crossed my mind to think that they would do a time skip. I thought it would take place like immediately after Infinity War, but they probably literally searched around, because you have Black Widow being like, yeah, he wiped out 50% of the everything living on this planet. You know, so I'm sure for her, she was probably going around trying to see if anyone else was alive. They probably were doing that in general. So that's gotta suck, living in a world like that that's literally been snapped. And I think that's probably where Hawkeye's storyline takes place. And I guessed on that whole situation about him being alive. And it's like, yeah, his family definitely got snapped in that situation. And so we see him kind of potentially killing somebody. I guess he kind of, you know, when you're living in a chaotic world like this, because I'm sure the world went a little crazy when like 50% of everything living on the planet just disappeared like that. It's like, yeah, I'm sure crime went up and just people went nuts. And I guess that's just him just kind of like, oh, you're doing anything to hurt people or this and that. Like Hawkeye's not even going to like arrest you or anything. He's just going to put you down. Potentially, I don't know. Because it was a shock for Black Widow to see him. It seems like, because like she probably thought he was dead too, because it's like in this entire time you never tried to contact us. It's just, you know, caught up in his remorse and everything. So that's kind of my initial thoughts about that. I thought it was kind of interesting too that the trailer did kind of do kind of a thing of like, obviously we're focusing on the original Avengers. It's cut to all of them with only two other characters, that being Nebula and Ant-Man, which I think is kind of interesting, because obviously we know there are other people who survived too that we're not cutting to at all. So, you know, it's actually kind of interesting too, because it was something I thought about, was like also like, what's Wakanda's state like? Because like, you know, it's like T'Challa's gone, and it's like, I've thrown out my thoughts that like Shuri would probably kind of, I mean, she is like the next in line for ruling, so that might be something. I don't know if that's something we tackle at all. I'd assume we would, just because of how big of an impact that is. Just not like just Avengers wise of losing Black Panther, but also like Wakanda lost its king, you know. But once again, it all comes down to whether or not even Shuri survived the snap. She's one of the people I think did, but we'll see. But it's also interesting too, because going back to what I was bringing up before, it seems like it took Scott a couple years to get out. To be fair, it took Hope's mom over like decades of being trapped in her before she finally got out with a little help. But it makes you wonder, it's like, okay, so how did Scott get out? Because even, you know, Captain America was like, wait, what? Like, this is recording for a couple years ago. Black Widow was like, no, this is like from the front door right now, which is, that's interesting. It's like, how did he manage to do that? I'm sure he probably came back and found out that his family's going to. It's definitely going to be interesting about that, because he knew exactly where to go. So, because if he had gotten out of sooner, I feel like he would have been like, no, I'm going to go straight to these guys. But the fact is that he's going there now must mean he just got out. That's how I feel about it. But I also like that thing of Black Widow, like, no, Steve, this is going to work. And he's like, I hope so. Because if this doesn't, I don't know what I'll do. And it's like, that's so heartbreaking, because for him, it's like, this is the last gamble. This is it. Beyond this, if this doesn't work out, which we don't know what the plan is, the fact of the matter is, like, where do we go from here with this whole situation? It seems like, at the very least, it seems like Thanos has done his whole retiring situation. I wonder, did he stay there the entire time? Like, I guess for him, it's kind of like, oh, relax, I did what I needed to do, and I mean, it did cost him the whole Gamora situation, but still, because no matter how messed up it is at what he did, he still thinks he did the right thing for the entire universe. It's like, they will understand in time why I did what I did, you know? So I'm also curious about the Tony thing. Like, did he contact the others? Because you see this thing where Banner's in front of, like, you see a picture of Scott, and one of them is Peter Parker, and it's like, okay, so Iron Man must have gotten in contact in some shape or form and told him about what went down on Titan, the Guardians, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man being gone. But what I thought was interesting, because it seemed like Nebula and Tony were on the same ship. It looks like that was, because it looks like she went on the ship, you know, the Guardian ship, because it looked like she was touching something of Gamora's. But I guess for her, it's like, she doesn't really know Tony, so why would she kick it with him? But still, not unless at some point they went their separate ways. That's gotta be pretty heartbreaking, if that is the situation, because it's like, you're alone in a moment where, like, so much was lost, you know? And he's sending messages to Pepper, which we don't even know if she's still around, you know? So I'm sure even that's him kind of hoping, you know, having those messages, hoping that maybe she's receiving them or something like that. So it makes you wonder how Tony's gonna find himself out of that situation, considering the fact that he's like, yeah, drifting in space, ran out of food and water a couple days ago. So obviously this trailer doesn't give too much, but I feel like even that's just a nice little stepping stone. But obviously, like I said earlier, it is more kind of like a teaser, because we haven't really gotten to, like, I guess the meat and potatoes of the situation, if you want to say. So these are just kind of my thoughts coming off the trailer. I'd love to get to know yours in the comments down below. How'd you felt about the trailer? What are your thoughts going forward, this whole situation? Really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good